afternoon, everyone. My name is Don Parkinson, and I'm a consultation specialist with Atkins Realis. Today, we are continuing with our series of radio show topics as our project moves closer to consultation round 3 of the environmental assessment phase. The topics we are covering parallel our project activities or are of community importance. So we hope these will help our viewers and listeners better understand the project and provide input along the way. We are currently broadcasting on the Wapiti Radio Network to help reach community members about our project. Listeners can call or text us with questions and comments about the project at 1-844 424 0500. That's 1-844 424 0500. We try to keep the show fun and informal while also being informative at the same time. We also take music requests as long as you provide us with a comment or question about the project. With me today and in many other shows going forward is Jennifer Ashawazage Pereira, my colleague and an Indigenous engagement and traditional knowledge specialist at Atkins Realis. That's a big description, Jen. Big description there for you.
It is.
And
Anin.
Jennifer is a member of Henvey Inlet First Nation, located on the French River south of Sudbury, and she works with me on projects across Canada. So let's get started. Today we are going to discuss a topic that's important to community members, minimizing project impacts, also known as mitigation, a term that we hear a lot and see a lot when we're talking about environmental assessments. And we think it's important to discuss these issues and share that discussion with our viewers and listeners because it's important for community members, and you will see when we go through the presentation to understand that if an environmental assessment or an impact assessment is approved, that doesn't mean there's no more oversight or that occurs on the project. It's only just the beginning of that. So there's a lot of sort of enforcement and making sure people are doing what they're promising to do when it comes to the project that we're talking about. So without further ado, let's get started here, Jen, and we can switch to our slides and go to the second slide, today's topics. And we're going to start off with a discussion of the project background, followed by the introduction to environmental management plans. Then we're going to talk about environmental management plan components, what information's in an environmental management plan, specific plans that are in a construction environmental management plan or an operations environmental management plan.
That's a lot of
And
stuff.
it's a lot of it's a lot of stuff. That's right. And then sample mitigation measures for erosion and sediment control. And then second last but not least is the environmental management plan enforcement and compliance. And then we're finally going to talk about how we want to hear from you. So hopefully, if we can get our PowerPoint up
Oh,
on the screen,
and one of the
our
ways
technical
people
team.
we can hear from people is the live call-in number that's at the bottom of the screen, which is 1-844-424-0500. And if you want to request a song, please do so with a comment or some feedback.
Don, we're
I know
live. We're live on the radio, Don. There's no PowerPoint.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, you are
Is that
correct.
just the background crew stepping
Sometimes
in
I
that Jen
forget
story we had to interrupt?
what media we're using, technical director. So let me just use my words to describe everything. So, project location. Webequie First Nation is located about 200 to 250 kilometers from both Hudson Bay and James Bay. And so you're talking about 600 kilometers north, almost directly north of Thunder Bay. So it's quite far north. It's a remote community. And then in terms of just again, additional background. The purpose of the supply road is to move materials, supplies, and people from the airport in Webequie to the McFalds Lake area, or the Ring of Fire area. Also to provide employment and economic development opportunities to Webequie uh, community members while allowing them to preserve their language and culture and continue to live in the community, and also to provide experience and training opportunities for youth to help encourage them to pursue additional skills through post-secondary education. As I always say, a all-season road project is not just a road. But I'll give you a bit of a description of the project itself. It's 107 kilometers long, the planned length. Of those 107 kilometers, 17 are within the Webequie First Nation reserve lands. The actual corridor within which we would plan the route, we are planning the route, is 2 kilometers in width. So somewhere in that 2 kilometer wide band, the road would end up being situated. The actual cleared area or cleared width is 35 meters for the road and shoulders as well too. The project, more information about the project. There are 3 major water body crossings. The first being Winisk Lake coming out of Webequie. That's about 200 to 250 meters wide. The second being Winiskissis Channel, which is about 30 to 40 meters wide, and that's southeast of Webequie, the actual settled area. And then the final major crossing is that of the Mukatai River, which is about 30 to 40 meters wide again, and that's, as I said, just before the road ends on the east side of the river. And as part of this project, there would be temporary and permanent aggregate and pit or rock quarry areas. There would be construction camps to accommodate the workers, and typically those construction camps include storage and laydown areas for equipment and materials as well.
How
So
many
let's
potential
now.
camps are we looking at, Don?
Good question, Jen. We're looking at 4 camps situated along the route, and the reason, that's the construction planners, sort of look at the length of the road, and they usually try to figure out, what would be the perfect number to maximize construction efficiency. So the number is 4, basically, that they've come up with.
Okay.
So before we go any further, why don't we jump into our first musical selection for today? Just want to remind everyone that they can call or text us at 1-844-424-0500. What was that number again, Jen?
844-424-0500. And I understand you have a theme for music, Don. So if people are calling
Yes.
with a request, do they have to fit your theme or can they
No.
select whatever they
No, it's
want?
totally open-ended. Great question, though,
All
Jen.
right.
Totally open-ended. You can request any genre or style of song you want. Um, this week, I thought we'd have some fun with some funny, goofy country songs. So I've got a list of them. None of them are very long, but they're kind of funny. And so, why don't we listen to our first one, which is by Deanna Carter, and it's called "Did I Shave My Legs for This?" So if our
I
team
like the
can
title
bring,
of that one.
We are
I've never heard this before.
we are loaded
Do we
up.
have that
Neither have
ready?
I.
It's loaded up.
Yep.
Let's listen to "Did I Shave My Legs for This" by Deanna Carter, and then we'll come back.
I hear what you're telling me, but that don't make it so. Two timing, talking sweet from the time your feet hit that floor. My heart is telling me it's time Every night out with the boys, you think I'm so naive. Well, I know exactly where you're going every time you leave. I see every little something up your sleeve. Oh, baby, I can see. I've loved enough to know a heartache when I see one coming. Been down this road before. I've loved enough to know. I've loved enough to know a heartache when I see one coming. Been down this road before. I've loved enough to know. I've loved enough to know a heartache when I see one coming. Been down this road before. I've loved enough to know a heartache when I see one, and I see one coming. A heartache when I see one, and I see one
Okay, we are back. Just curious if I can ask the technical team, was that actually the song we were supposed to play?
It says, Deanna Carter, did I shave my legs for this? Whether that's the album or the song off the album, I've never heard it, so I can't verify.
Yeah, it just didn't. The words
But the title at least
didn't, but it wasn't
didn't
even in the
match up.
chorus. The song name, yeah.
But it was a,
So I'm wondering,
it was
is
a
that
song about
actually
a,
the song?
It was a song about a cheating individual, so it could have been the song.
Could have been.
Oh,
But the title
could
in
have been.
any
Well,
case is relevant considering the work that we're doing.
yeah, exactly. Oh wow.
And it's not
Yeah, no, I
warm
was just
outside
wondering.
either.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Talk about environmental management plans. Just to remind everyone, they can call or text us at 1-844-424-0500. That is what number, Jen?
Toll free at 844-424-0500.
Perfect. Okay. So environmental management plans. So these are basically created as sort of a way of making sure that the commitments and the content and commitments and the monitoring requirements, although monitoring can sometimes be separate, are built into the construction and operational phases of the project. So it's basically taking that approved environmental assessment and turning it into something that's a living document that all the construction and operations teams can work with to ensure that all the commitments are being met. So there
That's it.
are
And we try
two.
our can I jump in there?
You bet, absolutely.
And our teams try to think of absolutely everything, as you'll learn when we're looking at all of the information that's involved in an environmental management plan. And of course, we want to ensure that everything is done in a safe and responsible way. And also, why it's very important that people in the area call us and give us some feedback on the environmental assessment.
So
That's
true,
all.
Jen. So you typically see a construction environmental management plan and an operations environmental management plan. So they're supposed to provide as it says in our PowerPoint, clear direction to the proponent and its contractors on managing the environmental, social, and heritage risks for the construction of the project. Just like you were saying, Jen, it's not just all about plants and animals. It goes beyond that. There's a lot to it. We'll get into that in a couple of minutes. So let's talk a little bit about typical sections of an environmental management plan. One is just a description of the project. Uh, then roles and responsibilities of project team members, any contact information for key people, and then another one, and I think you would like to jump in on this one, Jen, is environmental and cultural awareness and education, and that's an extremely important one, particularly for a project like this where you've got a First Nation proponent, you've got a number of First Nations in the area, you've got very sensitive lands, right, that contain a lot of culturally sensitive features, and you want to make sure that everyone involved in working on these projects are aware of that, right, Jen?
That's right. We have a lot of land protocols, and there's different ways to address that. From I hate to call it like this, but smaller ceremonies to bigger ceremonies, depending on the level of work that's done. So I know in Henvey Inlet First Nation, we had several ceremonies throughout the process of our project, like one kind of a big one before our environmental assessment and before there were a lot of people unknown to the land that were coming out to do this work. And then again, ceremonies all the way through. And then some of the more, I don't want to say simple, but some of the other things that some of our Anishinaabeg did on site, and we provided these resources on site, was they'd go offer tobacco in the mornings before they went out, because we had to actually hire bear guards for our environmental assessment work. So
Wow.
Anishinaabeg from the area looked after that. Yeah, there was a lot of bears in the area, and fortunately, no bears were harmed during our environmental assessment. And that was, I think, the importance of why our Anishinaabeg bear guards were putting tobacco down in the mornings before they went out, because they were really asking for a safe day. So I know there would be, or not that I know, but I understand that there would be similar protocols working in the area when the road is under construction. And those are just as
So some of the
important as the other safety protocols as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then, some of the other sections that would be included would be health and safety, environmental protection and controls, and then there's what we call the component management plan. So there's many management plans within the environmental management plan. So there are many plans within the plan, as we were talking about in our live stream, and we'll get into some of the ones, but there could be different plans for air quality, dust control, fish and fish habitat management, you name it. So this is a big document we're talking about here. This is not a small document, and so there's a lot in it. There's an awful lot in it. Um, so why don't we play another song here? Let's work our way down. This next one is a quick one. It's called "You're the Reason Our Kids Are Ugly" by Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty. So if our
Nice.
team could bring that one up.
I
I have no comment on that.
I
It's
for
got a
sure
catchy
don't, but
title,
it's
Jen. It's
one
got a
ready to
catchy
go.
title. You got it ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's listen to "You're the Reason Our Kids Are Ugly," Loretta Lynn and
Loretta Lynn,
Conway Twitty.
classic.
You're the reason I'm a riding around on recap tires.
And you're the reason I'm a hanging our clothes outside on wharves.
And you're the reason our kids are ugly, little darling.
Oh, but looks ain't everything, and money ain't everything, but I love you just the same.
Well, you're the reason I've changed to beer from soda pop.
shop.
You're the reason our kids are ugly, little darling. Oh, but looks ain't everything, and money ain't everything. But I love you just the same. I guess that we won't ever have everything we need. 'Cause when we get ahead, it's got another mouth to feed.
And that's the reason that my good looks is gone.
And that's the reason that I ain't got no hair to comb. And you're the reason our kids are ugly, little darling. Oh, but looks ain't everything, and money ain't everything. But I love you just the same.
Conway, why in the devil don't you go and shave and put on a clean pair of pants?
But Loretta, look at yourself. Now, I wish you'd take them curlers out of your hair and go put on a little makeup and get out of that house coat before supper.
Huh. Well, let me tell you something, Conway. Considering everything that I went through today, I look like a movie star.
Yeah, Ruth Buzzy.
Thank you.
Besides that, all of our kids took after your part of the family
Oh,
anyway.
they did, huh? What
Well-
about the ones that's bald?
They'll put
Well,
on a
Jen,
little
wasn't that
makeup.
great?
But it's making me feel nostalgic.
Yeah,
And I'm
that is a
thinking
great
about
song.
laundry, and on the res when I was a kid, we still had those laundry with the round things. On
Yeah,
those,
yeah, with the
do you know the
rollers or
things I'm
whatever.
talking about? Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I know what you mean.
So that and sunshine and pine sol, because when the ladies, the aunties and my mom used to clean the house, it was loud music, and it was usually Loretta Lynn or Patsy Cline, or Neil Diamond on some days. So all the
Oh,
windows
Neil
would be open
Diamond.
in the springtime, and everyone's washing with pine sol. So that is what this is making me think about.
That's great. It's funny how certain songs can trigger memories, eh? Like that. That's great. That's a fun song. I like that song. I never
I don't
heard that
know.
before.
By
Never.
today's
Uh,
standards, Don,
yeah, yeah. That's right.
to go get
Exactly.
dressed and put a
Oh,
little makeup on.
Your was that song recommended by your wife, Don?
no, it was.
I don't think she'd approve it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
well, if she had, yeah.
On a live
What can I
consultation
say?
stream, I just made a joke.
That's right. You did. You did.
He's
Well,
he's gonna
moving
get me.
along.
I'm dead
That's
beat.
right. Brace yourself, McGuire. McGuire, as they say. Okay,
Who
so what
says?
information, as I say, what information is in an environmental management plan? Well, let's go through some of the types of information that are in an environmental management plan. First of all, there would be the objectives, strategies, guiding documents. These could be, the legislation, the rules, the government rules, for example, government policies or best practices or standards
And any
established sort of,
best practices and standards too, I would think, would be
yes,
added to that.
yeah, that's right. Where they exist, they should be in there. Environmental protection measures, specifications and controls, like everything basically. Schedule and
Hmm.
timing of implementation, um, uh, project roles and responsibilities. We talked a bit about that before. Performance indicators, ways of measuring whether the plan is actually being enforced and complied with. Monitoring requirements, reporting requirements, corrective actions. So what we mean by corrective actions is if something was not if something happened. Oh, is that your phone, Jen? Did you want to get that? Don't mind us. Go ahead. You can
Sorry.
pick up the phone. So things like corrective actions would be things if there were a spill, for example. Maybe if the oil was being changed on a bulldozer and some oil leaked onto the soil, what actions were taken to ensure that soil that was then soaked with oil was then removed and obviously taken to a proper disposal location. And then another thing that's quite often in environmental management plans for good reason is maps and site plans, so that the workers, when they're actually on site, they can see where they are and what they should be doing in certain areas. Like in this area, there should be a silt fence that's set back 10 meters from the water course, things like that, right? So all that stuff should be detailed on maps or plans in a way so that the workers can interpret it properly and make sure that everything is being followed correctly. So that's the kind of information that would be in an environmental management plan. Let's now talk, Jen, a bit about specific plans that would be in an environmental management plan. Remember the plans within the bigger plan? So for a project like this, and this is just, again, each project's different, but things like air quality, dust control, right? Archaeological resources, construction blasting, and you can tell a bit of a story about that. Traffic
Oh, I have
management,
lots of
waste
blasting
management.
stories.
You have lots of blasting stories, yes. Employment and procurement, environmental and cultural awareness and education. You talked a little bit about that before. Erosion and
Hmm.
sediment control. We'll give an example of that later on. Fish and fish habitat management, health and safety management, noise and vibration management, light management, petroleum handling and storage, vehicle and equipment operations maintenance and refueling, site restoration, so bringing back a site that is used temporarily back to the condition it was in before the project occurred, spills prevention and emergency response management, surface water, stormwater management, soil management, vegetation management, and wildlife management. Those are only some of the plans, not necessarily all of them, that could be included in an environmental management plan for a project like this one. So there's a lot. There's a lot of plans within a big
There
plan. And
certainly
again, Jen,
are.
it depends on the project, right? Like a project you've been involved with in the past, there were different plans because the nature of the project's different, right?
That's right. And they were pretty similar to what's in these plans, and they absolutely overlap. For instance, we look at light management, and that's a pretty important aspect if you're working at night because you have to consider the piece of the animals, the birds and the bats, and whoever else is in the territory because that might be too much light. So there's some adjustments that may need to be made in those kinds of areas. So being really careful with light. Of course, dust. We would have trucks spraying dust, no, not dust, spraying the
Hopefully they're
roads
not
to keep the
spraying the
dust
dust.
down. I know. They were spraying dust around. Ah, that's not what I meant. And then certainly the site restoration and our people like Anishinaabe were involved in all aspects from helping overseeing things regarding environmental monitoring, construction monitoring in different areas, as well as overall everyone was kind of interspersed throughout the whole project with the construction developers. So there were people there, and on our health and safety teams, there was Anishinaabe there as well. So it was a really good project for people to develop skills and figure out where they wanted to go because some of our folks who were doing environmental management actually or environmental monitoring went on to further their studies and become herpetologists. So that there's that opportunity
Hmm.
for water biologists. I don't know how much herpetology people can do up there because that's pretty far and they don't have the same critters that we have, all the different snakes we have in my territory. But certainly people are having become experts in some of those areas. So marrying the Western science with traditional knowledge is really something that's come out of that project for us.
Yeah, that's probably one of the bigger. The environmental monitoring role is an extremely important role, and I think it's definitely preferred for a project like this, where it is in particular, that the environmental monitors are local. because they know their homeland. They know what lives on their homeland. They know uh, where it lives.
To know where
What's
everything
what's
is.
They know where everything is inside out, and the level of insight that local community members bring, it's unbelievable. And so that is, a project like this will employ a number of environmental monitors. It's quite a uh, popular role, I think, played by community
Mhm.
members on large linear projects, from my experience. And like you said, it's interesting. It can Having performed a role like that can encourage them to take it further and become specialists, like you said, herpetology, right? So what you were talking about there, probably these people were community monitors, and then they became interested in reptiles, right? Maybe they always
That's
were,
it.
but
That's my
they saw the
yeah, my
role,
brother.
right?
And then just kept going afterwards, and that is what one of
Yeah.
my brothers does. Is he's now a qualified herpetologist, and he works for our environmental stewardship regime. So he helps oversee, because we had some decommissioning of some of the roads and then restoring, because we had to narrow the roads because they were incredibly wide at this point because you're trying to truck in very large turbine parts. So the roads had to be
Yes.
fairly wide to accommodate some of the turns, and so they had to rehabilitate some of that stuff. And the other thing that happened in our territory was a fire. So there's a lot of studies post fire that are taking place as well. And so my brother goes and helps and does the goes out with a team and does the herpetology, and that's looking at the snakes and salamanders and all those, and
Hmm.
frogs and turtles and all of those critters that live in the
Yeah. Well,
wetlands primarily.
that's a cool
Hmm.
job, Jen. And he probably got sort of interested in that just by performing a more general role, maybe in environmental monitoring, and all of a sudden said, hey, I really like working with reptiles. I'd really like to do that some more, right? So there's opportunities to,
That's what
you know
happened.
hmm interesting. Yeah. Well, that's the kind of thing you want to happen, right? I mean, that
Hmm.
it just shows you some of the opportunities available, and out of a project like this, and how it can change people's lives and make them find something they're really interested in, and pursue it. So I think we're ready for another musical selection here.
Oh, I can't wait to hear
Um,
what this song is.
I might mix it up a bit here. I think I've heard this one before. I like the title of it. It's called "Shut Up and Fish" by
Shut
Maddie
up and
and Ty. So I think this is a funny one, as I recall. But if our technical team can bring that one up, do they have it?
We're good, Dan.
We are good.
Okay,
all right.
let's listen
Let's
to
hear it.
"Shut Up and Fish" by Maddie and Ty, and then we'll come back and continue our conversation.
Alright. He pulled up in his red Corvette, salmon shorts and a white V-neck. I said, oh, wow, you know how to dress down for a city guy. We headed out to a spot on the lake, a couple zip codes and a cup full of bait. I could tell pretty fast he had more than just bass on his mind. Oh, I was fishing, he was wishing, we were kissing, I was getting madder than
That was Shut Up and Fish by Maddie and Ty. Yeah, have you
Oh,
heard
that
that
was
one
fun.
before, Jen? Yeah, it
Never.
was a good one. That was a
My
fun
first
one.
time.
Yeah, I think we played that once before, but I can't recall exactly. So just to remind everyone,
Probably
they can
before my
call our
time.
yeah, they can call or text us at 1-844-424-0500. What's that number again, Jen?
844-424-0500.
Thank you for that.
You're
So
welcome.
let's move on and talk about sample mitigation measures. Um, just to give people a bit of an idea of what we mean when we talk about mitigation measures, like actual on the ground measures to reduce impact. So let's take a look at an example, and that example is one that I think lots of people have seen before. They probably kind of know what these measures are for, but we're talking about erosion and sediment control. So when you have, for example, construction near a water course or a water body like a lake or whatever, um, it's these are measures that are taken to prevent soil from eroding into the water course or water body. So just to sort of remind everyone, eroded soil, so soil that then migrates from where it was originally, is called what you call sediment. It's called sediment. So you're trying to control the release of soil from where it's supposed to be to where it's not supposed to be. So sometimes when you do construction beside water courses, if you don't put these controls in place, you can end up causing severe impacts to fish and fish habitat by changing the environment that the fish live in. Because all of a sudden, that fairly clear water becomes really cloudy, and then that has impacts on what the fish eat and then on the fish ultimately. So the idea is to limit those impacts, mitigate those impacts. And so one of the many plans that could be in an environmental management plan, and this is in probably every environmental management plan, is an erosion and sediment control plan. Um, and so you see these quite commonly. It takes different forms. Um, when you see projects where you have an eroded stream bank or shoreline, you have exposed soil that's eroded into the water course. So typically, what they'll do, they'll come in and clear out the area, and then put in, some like an erosion control blanket to retain the existing soil, prevent further erosion from occurring, and then you put stone on top of it, smaller like riprap, small to medium sized stone over top of it to protect that shoreline. So I think people have seen this pretty commonly along roads and stream banks and places like that. So these kinds of measures are quite common. Another thing that feature that is quite commonly used in construction to make sure that soil doesn't leave a construction site, or a minimal amount does, is the use of a sediment or a silt fence. You see that a lot, where
Hmm.
basically you will, bury the lower part of the ground and then extend it upwards and attach it to fence posts around specific areas, depending on the nature of the work that's going on there. And typically in an environmental management plan, in the map section, they will identify what areas should have a sediment control fence uh, around them. So that kind of stuff would be
Hmm.
detailed in them. And I mean, I'm sure you had them on some of the projects in your community, Jen, like these sediment fences, things like that, to prevent
Right.
erosion control
Usually,
or prevent
usually
erosion.
anywhere around, water, wetlands, and sometimes
Yep.
when they're working on a hill. So you don't want to see all of that sediment moving down the hill during springtime
Yep.
and rainy season, right? So you'll see that
Exactly.
kind of sediment control in those areas during that time too.
Yeah. You see I remember working on mining projects in really wet areas like rainforests and stuff, and erosion and sediment control is massively important, right? Because virtually every day it rains in the afternoon for a minimum an hour, right? So if you don't put
But
these in
hard,
place, you
right?
lose a lot of soil and hard. So you could lose a lot of soil, and where does that soil end up? You don't want it to end up in the water course, destroying fish habitat. So you've got to really, put in a lot of erosion and sediment control fixes, right? Or not fixes, but uh, controls all over the place to make sure that you don't create a big monster of a problem. So, but again, that stuff is all detailed where to do it and what should go where and how, and then the details of how it should be installed and what materials to use would be in the best practices, and that all comes out of that same environmental management plan document. You've got the specifications for the material used and how it's installed. So all the details should be in that environmental management plan document. So there's a lot in that document. As I said, it's not a small document typically. So
Not at all. Because
what?
we also have to
No.
consider when we're doing construction as well, so we're not disturbing some of the birds who nest on the ground.
Yes, that's right, and that's another one. There's, and we'll probably get into multiple presentations, I think, as we move along.
Hmm.
Um, on this, Jen, like talk about specific plans, like aquatic fish and fish habitat, like terrestrial habitat, where you're talking about birds and nesting periods and windows for doing work, and when windows, where you can't do certain types of work because birds are nesting or fish are spawning, different species are spawning, things like that. So this gets very detailed. Today's topic is very general right now, um,
Hmm.
but we're going to dive a lot more deeply in future shows.
That's
So
it.
just
Those
to
are some
remind
of the things to
everyone,
look forward to.
yeah, exactly. And just to remind everyone that they can call in or text us at 1-844-424-0500. That's 1-844-425-00. I think we're ready for another song.
All right.
How about a Johnny Cash song, Jen? What do you think about that?
I like Johnny Cash.
Yeah, I like it. It's got a great voice. Let's listen to, how about this one? A Boy Named Sue. How about this? So
All right.
I don't believe I've heard this before, but maybe I have. Well, have you heard it
Oh,
before?
you
Does it
probably have.
sound
I've heard
familiar?
it before because Johnny Cash was in rotation at my house growing up.
Well, let's listen to Johnny Cash, A Boy Named Sue. If
All
our
right.
team has got that up. Oh,
I,
oh, do they have that up?
yeah, we're bringing her up. There's just so many versions. I was deciding which one to play because I grew up with all these versions. So I'm gonna surprise you with. Oh no, I better not. That one has
Is there a
a version.
dance version? Why don't we play the
A
dance
dance
version?
No,
version.
we're
Is
gonna
there a
use.
remix?
Like San Quentin Prison, he does it and he swears in the song. We're gonna use the non-swear version.
Yes, I think that's
Yeah, I would prefer that.
appropriate
Yes.
for radio.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Is it-
Well, my daddy left home when I was 3. Didn't leave very much to my mom and me except this old guitar and an empty bottle of booze. Now, I don't blame him cause he run and hid, but the meanest thing that my daddy ever did was before he left, he went and named me Sue. He must have thought that it was quite a joke, and I got a lot of laughs from a lot of folks. Seems I had to fight my whole life through. Some gal would giggle and I'd turn red, and some guy'd laugh and I'd bust his head. I'll tell you, life ain't easy for a boy named Sue. But I grew up quick and I grew up mean. My fists got hard, my wits got keen. I roamed from town to hide my shame. But I made me a vow to the moon and stars. I'd search the honky-tonks and bars and kill that man and give me that awful name. Well, it was Gatlinburg in mid-July, and I just hit town and my throat was dry. Thought I'd stop and have myself a brew. At an old saloon on a street of mud, and there at a table dealing stud sat the dirty mangy dog that named me Sue. Well, I knew that snake was my own sweet dad from a worn out picture that my mother had. Knew that scar on his cheek and his evil eye. He was big and bent and gray and old, and I looked at him and my blood ran cold. And I said, "My name is Sue. How do you do? Now you're gonna die." Well, I hit him hard right between the eyes, and he went down. But to my surprise, come up with a knife and cut off a piece of my ear. Then I busted a chair right across his teeth, and we crashed through the walls and into the street, kicking and gouging in the mud and the blood and the beer. Well, I tell you, I fought tougher men, but I really can't remember when. He kicked like a mule and he bit like a crocodile. I heard him laughing and I heard him cuss, and he reached for his gun, but I pulled mine first. He stood there looking at me, and I saw him smile. And he said, "Son, this world is rough, and if a man's gonna make it, he's gotta be tough." And I knew I wouldn't be there to help you along. So I give you that name, and I said goodbye, and I knew you'd have to get tough or die. It's that name that helped to make you strong. He said, "Now you just fought one heck of a fight, and I know you hate me, and you got the right to kill me now, and I wouldn't blame you if you do. But you ought to thank me before I die for the gravel in your gut and the spit in your eye, 'cause I'm the that named you Sue." What could I do? I got all choked up and I threw down my gun. I called him a paw and he called me a son. Come away with a different point of view. And I think about it now and then, every time I try and every time I win. And if I ever have a boy, I'll name him Bill or George or Frank, anything but Sue. Petrol. Hate that damn thing.
That's a great song, isn't it? I forgot about that song. That's a fantastic song. Wow. Well, we've got time for another musical selection, but I just want to finish off our last main topic here. Have a little chat around this, and that is EMP enforcement and compliance. So we have this big environmental management plan, but you need people to make sure it's followed, right? And we talked about the environmental monitors and the importance of having community-based environmental monitors because they have that level of insight about the area. They know the land and waters better than anyone. And as I mentioned, these are really important roles on projects, and they can serve to encourage community members to sort of take it to another level and become an environmental technician or technologist, or move into getting into environmental science and getting involved on that side. There's a lot of opportunities on the environmental monitoring side for community members. There's going to be a lot more, I think, monitoring projects going forward. Regional and local,
That's right.
because of concerns about regional impacts. I think so. I think you're going to see First Nations really developing, getting funding for, and developing their own monitoring programs, Indigenous-led environmental monitoring programs that they can, where they contribute to how these are done and do them themselves as well. So I think this is something you're going to see a lot of growth in employment-wise going forward. So I think it presents a lot of opportunities for community members. And before we start to wrap up, I think we should squeeze in another song here, Jen. This is
All
one
right, one more
that,
song.
yeah, this is one that's quite popular, and it's done by Alan Jackson and the late, great Jimmy Buffett, the
Oh, what
billionaire
is
Jimmy
it?
Buffett. It's called It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere.
Oh, I think I've even
Famous
heard
song.
this song before.
Oh, I'm sure you have. This is a popular song. I'm sure our technical team has heard this before.
Yes, yes,
And
we
you hear a
have.
lot of people say this.
Yes, Yeah. And this is the brilliance of Jimmy Buffett, right? He was able to tap into that sort of uh, type of people
Mentality,
and
mindset.
create a business around it,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
became very
Yeah, man.
wealthy from this, extremely wealthy.
I do.
So
Yeah.
if our team has this ready, let's listen to "It's 5 o'clock somewhere."
The sun is hot and that old clock is moving slow, and so am I. Workday passes like molasses in wintertime, but it's July. I'm getting paid by the hour and older by the minute. My boss just pushed me over the limit. I'd like to call him something. I think I'll just call it a day. Pour me something tall and strong. Make it a hurricane before I go insane. It's only 12:30, but I don't care. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. This lunch break is gonna take all afternoon and half the night. Tomorrow morning I know there'll be hell to pay. Hey, but that's alright. I ain't had a day off now in over a year. My Jamaican vacation's gonna start right here. If the phone's for me, you can tell them I just sailed away. And pour me something tall and strong. Make it a hurricane before I go insane. It's only 12:30, but I don't care. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. I could pay off my tab, pour myself in a cab, and be back to work before 2. At a moment like this, I can't help but wonder, what would Jimmy Buffett do?
Funny you should ask, Al. I'd say, pour me something tall and strong, make it a hurricane before I go insane. It's only 12:30, but I don't care. Pour me something tall and strong, make it a hurricane before I go insane. It's only 12:30, but I don't care.
He don't care. I don't care.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. What time zone am I on? What country am I in?
It doesn't matter. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's always on 5 in Margaritaville, come to think of it.
I heard that.
You've been there, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
I've seen your boat there.
I've been to Margaritaville a few times.
All right, well, that's good.
Stumbled my way back.
Okay, well, we just want to make sure you can keep it between the navigational beacons.
Between the buoys, I got it.
All right, well, it's 5 o'clock. Let's go somewhere.
I'm ready. Crank it up.
Let's get out of here.
I'm gone.
Wow, great song.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's wasn't that? Isn't
What
that a
would
fun
Jimmy
song? That's
Buffett
like
do?
an anthem. That's like an anthem, I think, to a lot of people. And because, like like you were saying, Jen, people say that or Tony was saying, people say that all the time, right? It's become a
It's 5
popular
o'clock
saying. I don't know if it
somewhere.
came from the song or the song came from the saying, but it's
No
it's
idea.
uh it, it's a lot of fun anyway. So wow, that was a good
I think
conversation,
that
wasn't it,
song
Jen?
was made for me.
Yeah,
The song was made for you,
I
Tony?
certainly,
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
as
you,
I open the beer, Anders.
yeah, I think you live your life pretty religiously by that
Oh,
mantra, Mr.
my
McGuire.
cousin, I have to tell you what my cousin said. He was talking about lunchtime, and I told him I'd go home for lunch. This was like a while back. He goes, yeah, me too, because I go home to enjoy barley soup.
Oh yeah,
And
I
I
love
was like,
barley
oh, I
soup.
love barley soup. And he's like, well, that's not really what I'm talking
No,
about, Jen.
yeah. Golden barley soup.
That's
Oh,
good.
it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Golden barley soup.
Soup with a straw.
Yeah.
So, so wow, we covered a lot today, Jen. Like we talked about environmental management plans, the two different types, the operations and construction ones. We talked about the components within an environmental management plan, the kind of
Compliance.
information that's in those plans. Some of the we gave a long laundry list of some of the types of plans that would sit within an environmental management plan for the Webequay Supply Road, for example. And we talked about sample mitigation for measures for erosion and sediment control, and then enforcement and compliance. So we covered a lot of ground, didn't we?
We sure did. That was a lot. And we had
Yeah,
music.
it's a lot. And we had some fun music too. Yeah. So again, I just want to remind everyone that you know send us your music suggestions. We're open to whatever you want to suggest to us, and give us a list if you want a playlist, and we'll take a look at that and try and
But
work it
also
into future shows.
keeping in mind that this is radio. Family friendly.
Yes, of course, always. Yes, that's right. That's right. Always walking the line to quote a Johnny Cash
Johnny Cash. Here we're going
song.
with Johnny Cash.
Yes, yes. So that wraps up today's discussion of minimizing project impacts, and we hope it was helpful and encourages you to join us again next week at the same time when we talk about employment opportunities from the project, such as construction camps. So don't forget to keep in touch with our project team members via the contact information available on our website, supplyroad.ca, Miigwech, and we will talk to you again next week.
Mama.
Eight hundred 588 2300 Empire.